My guest today is Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey. Welcome.
Nice to be back.
Thank you. You are heading the 9th largest city in Canada. And we invite people out there, if you're interested in becoming a person to give us a question, you can go to Facebook Live/Live Town Hall. Log into Facebook and we'll take your questions and read them live. And we will read them and have the mayor answer them. That's a whole part of this interactive process. As I was saying, the 9th largest municipality in Canada, and as of late, many, well, you say newsprint and television people have commented that you probably have the hardest job of a municipal assignment. Statements like dysfunctional council, financial questions, councillors accused of racist remarks. I mean, we've talked about the media unfairly reporting on Brampton and media fairness. Just as a start off here, none of this you have said or done, but you've been the face. The buck stops with the mayor, and you've had to represent the people and answer to all this stuff. Where are you at, Madam Mayor, right now?
I'm in year 3 of a 4-year term. I'm very lucky to do the job that I do. And I knew that coming into the city of Brampton, it was going to be a challenge. And I'm up for a challenge. And we've achieved a lot of things that many cities would kill for. We have a great population, very young, well-educated, and people keep coming here and they're choosing to make Brampton their home. So it's my job to keep my eye on the prize, to make sure more jobs, more investment comes to the city to help lower property taxes, to make sure the university becomes a reality, to make sure we have more transit investments, to be the positive person who reaches out to federal and provincial counterparts, as well as other cities and businesses, to make sure they know what opportunities lie here in Brampton. And I've just come back from 2 weeks in California at a bio convention talking about the strengths of Brampton, and that's my intention to do for the rest of the term.
When you were at Queen's Park, you were a cabinet minister, you had many portfolios. Some would say going to municipal politics is in somewhat a step down because it's not, I mean, municipal politics is like a weird salad.
Yeah.
How is it dealing? I mean, we're coming up in 2018 to an election. How is it dealing with a council that in some instances sometimes works against you instead of with you?
You know, I had an experience prior to going to the province. I had 12 years on council, and to be perfectly honest, when I left, I had no intention of coming back to Brampton City Council. I didn't like the way it operated, and I went to the province and I learned different skills in different ministries. The discipline and the partisanship in the legislature is different. I'm not a big fan of the partisan nature of how it operates, because actually I got along with people on both sides of the floor. It is more challenging leading a group of people when they don't appear to be unified in their goals. So my challenge is, as a new candidate, I put a platform together and I'm following what I said I was going to do. One of the first things I talked about was to lower my salary by $50,000. That's what I did.
Not just once, but every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
So I delivered on what I said I was going to do. We slowly are going through the check marks of things I said I was going to do. Some things happened more quickly than I anticipated, and other things came up that we didn't expect. But my goal here is always to make progress and to keep demonstrating that Brampton is a great place to do business, and to make sure that at least I raise these issues with council. And obviously they're independent thinkers. The debate is healthy. There's just some things that are challenging about how personal it gets, and that's not routine certainly in provincial politics.
You're watching Facebook Live, so it's Live Town Hall. You can ask your questions for Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey. Just post them right here on Facebook. We got Brian. Let's go to Brian. Right off the top, Brian, first question. What can be done to reduce car insurance costs in Brampton, since we are known as a fraud capital of Canada for insurance claims, and that's why our rates are so high? I know that it's based on an area, but how can we get the rates down in Brampton?
So this, Brian, is absolutely right. It is something that I, as an MPP, spoke to Premier Wynne about. I spoke to Minister Sousa, the Minister of Finance, about. I have never been satisfied with their response. I think that they were not brave in tackling the tow truck industry, the auto body shop, the healthcare sector, all of it contributes to higher costs, and my residents are being disadvantaged by an unfair system. And every time I see the Premier, I talk about it, and every time I see the Minister of Finance, you have MPPs that you need to put the pressure on. I do every single time I see them. It's unfair.
I've talked to insurance representatives, and they say that it is a result of the accumulative claims in an area. That's their that's their cause and effect.
I don't believe that. I know the province can do more, and they need to step up and show leadership because my residents are being disadvantaged, and it's just not right.
Amen has a question. He says, can you kindly advise that when will be the time that will come when a taxpayer of Brampton can get the service it deserves? Will there be a time when we can get a subway access? Please advise the LRT status. It feels we live in a stone age.
Oh, wow, that's so there's kind of three questions.
There is.
I'm hoping that eventually the people in your back room will put a survey up on the screen. So I want you to, Ahmed, to participate in the survey. It talks about the services you get in the city. If you don't like them, participate. The LRT conversation is still ongoing up to a point. We, at our last planning and council meeting, talked about the end of the LRT at Steeles and whether it's going into a tunnel underground or whether it will be overhead bridge.
There was a $4.5 million fee that was paid. Are you going to go Kennedy? Are you going to go the other way?
That's another issue.
That's a whole other
That's another issue. There are two routes where we're looking down McLaughlin and Kennedy, and we're studying those routes, even though we've studied them twice before, and they both came back negative. No, now what I'm talking about is the end of the LRT, which is a underground tunnel which would connect people from the south of Steeles to the bus terminal, or a bridge over the top.
Would that not alleviate all the concerns that people have about the historical nature? They were saying that if the LRT went...
It has nothing to do with historical. Nothing.
But they were saying that if it went above ground, that a bus lane above ground would compromise the historical Gage Park and the historical houses. If you dig underneath, there's no...
I appreciate that people would like things to go away and put them underground. There's no money to do that. There was never money to do that. And I don't know how people in Rome or Israel manage with LRTs going through their historical districts, but last time I checked, they're older than Brampton's. They do fine.
Another question from Rowena. Any updates on the status of the university? Do you have an update? The Blue Ribbon Committee, I mean, we're waiting for the next piece of information to come down.
It is in now the hands of Ryerson University, and then it will be in the hands of the province. So right now, Mohammed Lachmi, who is the head of Ryerson University, came out and we chatted last week about their plans. What they're doing is putting forward essentially a proposal that will go to the province. They're looking at locations that they would like to be in. Don't know where that location is, but it is the decision of Ryerson as to where they go. Right. And what I can tell you is they're interested in being near transportation, recreation, libraries, housing, all those. The student experience is very important to Ryerson. So they will be putting forward a plan. It will go to the province. The province will determine and approve the plan that Ryerson puts forward. But what I can tell you is that Ryerson is actually more ambitious than the province has originally approved. They've talked about 1,000 students. They actually want to up that number. They're also talking about different kinds of... I think it's terrific news. They can bring as many as they want. They're talking about different kinds of programming. They're very interested in cybersecurity. They're interested in our healthcare investments. One of the initiatives
was to involve companies that are in existence in Brampton currently, and we were talking the last time we met. This is your fourth appearance, by the way, on Live Town Hall. You were talking about Canon and their integration and becoming a world leader and utilizing Brampton as a hub and the university as a key platform for that.
We have an extraordinary, we're in an extraordinary position. I talk about this all the time, and Brampton Civic, busiest emergency room anywhere in Canada, does extraordinary work, very high, low mortality rate and great incidence in surgical procedures. And we're attracting physicians from all over the world because they want to work at Brampton Civic with other experts. Peel Memorial, state-of-the-art facility that focuses on health and wellness with a seniors component to it. And Erin Oak Kids, which is about to open. When I was down in California, people from the Ontario Brain Institute want to work with them. People from Clinical Studies Ontario want to work with them. We have a preponderance of healthcare investments, probably $2 billion, that I worked on when I was an MPP and a minister at the provincial government. There is nowhere else in Ontario, and I would fathom even or guess even across Canada, that has this kind of investment that is less than 10 years old. It's all here in Brampton.
Why is this message, every time we hear a report coming from Toronto or somewhere else, it's always negative? The only time a reporter comes to Brampton, it's to talk about something that's gone wrong. What you just said right there with Aaron Oaks, with the school, with Canada, the integrate, why can't we get that message out in a louder volume than some of the other rhetoric?
I don't know. I guess, if it bleeds, it leads is kind of the acronym that newspapers use. I think it's more interesting to hear that people are arguing with each other.
Sizzle.
We have lots of sizzle, and there'll be more to come. The Ryerson announcement will be later this year.
Yes. You had a meeting today with someone who always brings a lot of sizzle, and you want to see him more. Tell our folks at home who that was.
So this morning, the Board of Trade hosted a meeting with Bill Morneau, the Minister of Finance, the federal minister. He's been here in the GTA a few times, and he was supposed to come to Brampton to do a budget breakfast, but something happened when he was supposed to come. So I invited him back. We'd love to talk to him, and certainly we had Coca-Cola and CN and Ryerson and Sheridan College and Algoma was there, talking about all the opportunities for our young people and making sure that our businesses. T. by Daniel was sitting beside me. Yeah. We had most of our MPs were there. We really want to find out what's happening for business, what decisions they're making provincially that can hinder or slow down growth. They talked about minimum wage. They talked about transit and how the federal government is coming to the table, has been making some extraordinary investments, how the economy is doing better. So I thought it was a very hopeful conversation. Not long enough. I would have liked to have more time with the minister, but we've had the Prime Minister here in Brampton 3 times.
Yes.
That's a good sign. It's way better than things were before. We're seen as a place where there is opportunity and buzz, and I plan to keep that buzz and that sizzle going.
You're watching Live Town Hall. My name is Michael A. Charbon. We're here with Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey, the Mayor of Brampton. Let's cut to your questions here. Cody says, in 2014, you promised to disrupt the status quo. Do you feel you've delivered on that promise?
I would say that certainly some of the things that I proposed at the beginning of the term made people uncomfortable, and I think change.
Well, you talked about transparency.
I did. I talked about transparency and accountability, and we brought Jim McCarter in to come and have a look at the books.
And you also brought the Ombudsman in here as well?
Brought the Ombudsman in to look at 3 things, but he looked at 1. And essentially,
so just on that point, and I want to bring you up on that point,
yep.
There are some people on council that didn't feel that merited any further attention. And the whole purpose of bringing the Ombudsman and the McCarter report was all about a third set of eyes, right?
Yeah.
Where are we at with having a third set of eyes? Is that still a problem?
Well, there's two kind of scenarios. One is bring back Jim McCarter to have a relook at the finances, and really, even though at the meeting about a week ago, council said it didn't make a difference, it absolutely made a difference. The public needs to have confidence that we've got our house in order financially, that we're doing the processes that we need to put in place, not only for the public, but for business. If they don't have confidence in the fact that we're following best practices, they don't want to invest in Brampton. So Jim McCarter's one issue. The Ombudsman himself also talked about having an independent Auditor General. That decision will come back to Council in the coming weeks. I believe that the City Manager will bring back a report. I'm sensing Council doesn't want to have that either. But I would tell the public who's watching tonight and anybody else who's interested, have a look at what's happening in Toronto. They have an independent Auditor General who has actually found 4 things that I just looked at this afternoon. Yeah. The Toronto Parking Authority overpaid for land in North York. Yeah. There was bid rigging in procurement of city paving contracts. The City of Toronto worker benefit claims are problematic.
And the Sunshine List did not say what the payment of the people who were working for the parking department was.
And $68 million of TTC assets sat idle. It helps to have another set of eyes to overlook what your existing staff are doing. There are people that say, well, that means you'd have no confidence. That's absolutely not the case. Any large business, and the City of Brampton is a large business, usually brings in an audit firm to check out the books. It's not unusual. We do it everywhere else in the world. I can't see why the City of Brampton should be that exception.
Well, when you talk about another set of eyes, I mean, as of late, the late $1.25 million. Where did it come from? We don't know where it was. OPR, or described as an outside policy request. And actually, the officials in Brampton, they describe it as discretionary salary increases determined by the operating department heads. $1.25 million that two councillors didn't know about what was going on. Not their fault, they believe, because it wasn't a line item. That puts the question in the voices of the Bramptonian folks who are looking at something that's fiscal. How do you tackle that?
Well, I would say it was more than two. The four returning members of council appeared to be unaware of what those outside policy requests meant, what the impact was. I would say that based on the audit that I read, it was clear that this is a human resources issue, and most of us know that a human resources line in your budget is half. In Brampton's case, it's 51% of our budget. And clearly, based on the audit, no approved policies were followed, the internal controls were ineffective, and there appeared to be no oversight. So we need oversight.
Stephen Bald. Stephen Bald is a government procurement expert with a background in investigating municipal fraud, etc. He said the fact that the council didn't know about this amount of money being paid out to staff is of grave concern. Is McCarter potentially going to deal with that if he comes back as well?
Well, council just decided he's not. They decided that they were on the right path, or the majority of council believed that we are on the right path, and not to invite him back.
You're watching Live Town Hall with Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey, the Mayor of Brampton. Let's get back to some of your questions here. Would council consider changing the zoning to reduce the number of homes coming and convert the space into industrial land to attract more big business?
A good question, and Councillor Gurpreet Dillon brought forward a motion that said we weren't going to convert any more commercial industrial lands to residential, which has been the practice of council. The builder comes in and goes, oh, I can't find a market, I can't bring in a business, so let me build some more houses.
Right.
That isn't a good mix. Really what you want to do is build up your business, commercial, industrial. It lowers your property taxes. We're a city that has been top heavy with houses, so your property taxes are higher. Business carries the freight. Right. You want way more business, and frankly, I don't want people leaving here to go to work. I want them to stay in Brampton and work at good, high-paying jobs.
Olga wants to know, what's happening with the noise barrier on Williams Parkway?
I don't know. I would say reach out to your local city and regional councillor and find out the status of it, and you might want to ask them what they're doing about it in the budget if it isn't part of the work plan this year.
Speaking of the budget, people in Brampton have an opportunity to reflect and comment on the budget. There's a survey. If you don't, it's kind of like if you don't vote, you can't complain. So,
well, the survey is about city services.
Right.
The budget is a separate item, and it will be done November 28th November 27th to 29th, 3 days.
Well, what do you want the people of Brampton to do regarding the budget? Because you want them to be involved.
I do. Decisions are made by those who show up. And right now, I would say there might be a handful of people who sit in the room when we do our budget, and they say nothing. They watch what we do, and then we pass it, and it goes away. So I went out to see two seniors groups on the weekend, and they were talking to me about shade shelters, and they were talking about benches. They were concerned about lighting and public safety in their neighborhoods. Come out and ask us to do things that affect your neighborhood, that affect your quality of life. If you don't like the services that are going on, I had a group of seniors say to me, we don't think that the tax credit you give to seniors is sufficient. It hasn't been looked at for 7 years. Would you look at it again? I said, come into budget and make the proposal. I'll help you get on the list. I'll help you with the wording. I understand sometimes it's an intimidating process. Yep. Don't be intimidated by us. We work for you. So let us do a budget that you're proud of, that you're happy about. We may not be able to do everything you want, but come in. We had a sports group come in and say, you know what we need help with? Writing proposal for grants to the province of Ontario. So we said, as a city, we'll help you, and we'll dedicate someone to help all the sports group apply for provincial funding. That's an easy fix. It helped them, not a significant dollar amount, but it helps them access more dollars from another level of government.
Another question from Live Town Hall from Cody. Shouldn't the inclusion of an HSR stop in the super innovative corridor include a city that is one of the biggest in that corridor? That's an interesting question, because we had that whole element where it was a Kitchener, Guelph, Waterloo, and they missed a stop in Brampton.
Well, Cody asks a question that kind of I struggle with, because here's the issue. If you didn't think the LRT conversation would have an impact, this could be part of the impact. If we had an LRT, I'm pretty sure rapid rail would, a high-speed stop would be in Brampton. But here's what I'm focused on. The province of Ontario and the federal government came together to put $1.8 billion into GO service. And they've made the biggest investment back in March. $1.8 billion from the New Canada Building Fund was put into the Super Innovation Corridor between Kitchener-Waterloo and Toronto. We're right in the middle of that Super Innovation Corridor, and all the businesses along that line are going to be the beneficiary, and that's what I'm focused on, making sure that the commuters can get back and forth. Our biggest problem is...
But do we have a stop in Brampton? That's the salient question, right?
So you need to keep your eye on the prize. The prize is that rail corridor needs to be buffered and strengthened. Right now, if you want to go down to Toronto, you may have to wait for freight to go back and forth, not commuters. We need double tracking along that route. We don't have that. And the high-speed rail is an environmental assessment. It's out in the distance. We need to keep our focus on what we don't have right now. In the last 2 years, we have 14 extra trips on our GO service. The last time we had extra trips was 30 years ago. Transit didn't appear to be a priority for this council in the last decade.
What about all-way, two-way GO?
We do have all-day two-way service, whether it's buses and trains. Again, if you don't double track, we're always taking a second place to freight. So that's why I talked to the Prime Minister, came to my office, I talked to him that CP, CN need to talk and share the line better so commuters can go back and forth. Because people don't all want to go to Toronto. Sometimes they want to go out to Kitchener-Waterloo, sometimes they want to go to the airport. This is about convenience for the business customer.
Another question from Cody here. He says, what types of jobs were you referring to when you mentioned 12,000 jobs had left?
I don't know what
had been added in the life of the sciences sector. I'm sorry, my screen went blank there for a sec. So Cody, I'll read the question again. What types of jobs were you referring to when you mentioned 12,000 jobs had been added in the life sciences sector?
So I'm thinking he's referring to a statement put out by our Economic Development Office. And essentially, Economic Development tries to capture the type of jobs that are brought to your municipality. It's not my work, it's council's work. And essentially, all life sciences, whether they're doctor's office or labs, are captured in that number. It's not the number I want. When 30,000 people come into your city every year, that's not enough jobs. And we need to find ways to capture more. One of the reasons I traveled to California, to bring companies who don't have a Canadian footprint to Brampton, because we have the kinds of healthcare investments and research that helps promote those high-paying, high opportunity jobs, because as you and I were talking before we went on air, a lot of jobs are being eliminated. They're being replaced by automation. We as a city need to think, where are we going in the future? Remember Brampton's past. We're known as Flower City. Although we do have some attractive flower arrangements across the city that our Parks and Recreation staff do, and they do a great job, that's not our current major industry here. Neither is the car sector, although Ford and Chrysler are major employers. The automotive sector is changing. Where does Brampton need to go in the future? You need to look on the horizon, prepare, and Ryerson will help us prepare, as will our other major employers, to make sure they end up with the kind of employees that they need in the future with the skill sets. So remember, when we opened Brampton Civic, we didn't have enough nurses. We had to poach them from all kinds of other communities across Ontario and across Canada to fulfill the kind of staffing that we needed to make sure our residents had the best health care.
You're watching Live Town Hall with Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey. Next Thursday, July 27th, Live Town Hall will feature Mr. Harry Slaw. He is a new CAO at Brampton. We're going to spend an hour with him. And when you talk about someone who controls the budget, someone who came into, some would say, clean house, make a couple of changes, Mr. Slanger is going to sit down with us for an hour. So we ask that you block off next Thursday at 7 p.m. To be with us for Live Town Hall.
So can I help people with that?
Sure.
Understand that there's two groups of people that work at City Hall. Mr. Schlang is our CAO. Council hires Mr. Schlang. He's the only employee we hire, and he controls the bureaucracy. So we set the policy. He delivers it through the staff. He executes it. So understand his role is to execute the policies the council sets.
Right.
Most people don't understand the difference between us.
And interesting, again, we want to bring to your attention Live Town Hall is an interactive show. You can log on to Facebook and ask your questions that we will ask the mayor. And as we say that, we go to the questions. I have a comment from Luigi, and it actually pertains to a comment that you had made previously, Madam Mayor. Property taxes in Brampton are making it hard for Brampton residents to live. Randeep would like a question. His is, how can we ensure we have a functioning council that is forward-thinking? The next municipal election, I don't feel like you mentioned that our house is in order, and until we get functioning council, any sort of tax increase is not justified, i.e. waste of tax dollars towards a new environmental assessment for the new LRT route.
There's a lot in that question.
Yes.
How do I unbundle it?
Well, basically unpackage it first. How do you get your house in order, and how can some councillors go forward and say, after spending $4.5 million on 2 alternate routes that have already been assessed that they don't work, why are we spending that money? I mean, that's what people out there are asking.
That's a hard question to answer because I was on the other side of that conversation. I don't think it's money well spent. And I feel for people that are really struggling to pay their
You've got many
property
people
taxes.
who agree with you, though.
I do,
That's
I know
the
that.
problem here.
So the challenge is every 4 years you get to make a determination. Unfortunately, I think I've had 2 report cards from the Toronto Star, none particularly flattering. But at the end of the day, I'm seen as being the person who speaks for council. And what I can tell you is that council has made some very difficult decisions in the last 3 years. Some of them we agree on and some we don't. And that robust debate is healthy. But what I can tell you is we're on a much better path. Jim McCarter helped provide the clarity we needed in order to make the business community feel better about what we're doing. We increased our credit rating. We got much better ratings from the banking sector, Standards & Poor's, and all of these groups helped us look like we have our house in order from that perspective. We've just approved a strategic plan. Previously, council had 50 directions. We got it down to 6. You're never going to get anything done if you have too many issues on the table that you finish nothing. And that's one thing that Mr. Schlang said upon arrival. Your policies are out of date and you've got too many irons in the fire, too many things on the go. You need to focus and not send your staff on a scattergun approach to do everything. Fix the important things that matter in your city, and some of those important things are health partnerships, a planning vision, Riverwalk, which would deal with our flooding issues in the downtown, regional connections, the university, and urban centers. Those are the top issues that we've said as a council collectively, unanimously said this is important. I think we're unanimous on our interest in having the university come, and in our conversations behind closed doors, we've had some very positive collegial conversations about how helpful we want to be to Ryerson and how excited we are about their entry.
They want to escalate that process. They've been hearing about it for almost 4 years now. They want get the university here because that's a huge step
But I think
forward.
they're carrying the baggage from before. Council had an opportunity previously, did not follow those when you're told to bring a university to the table, you need to bring a university to the table. That's why I put the Blue Ribbon panel together, because I wanted to take the politics out of this. This is too important to get wrong. We have a great partner, a cool partner who is ambitious and has wonderful plans that are exciting. I feel like Christmas is coming. I just can't wait. It's only a few more sleeps till they make public what they're going to do. And I think the province will be shocked and excited about where Ryerson is taking post-secondary education in Brampton. In fact, in North America, when they bring their plan forward. It's going to be exciting and people will want to be here.
Some have said you're at a precipice. Big word, but you're at a precipice. I like the so many sleeps. That's cute.
Yeah.
Luigi says, can residents sue council if they do not have proper financial oversight? Luigi, come on. Well, I don't make up the questions. I just read them.
I like Luigi. I think he's got a great sense of humor. That's good.
Yeah. I don't, well. How do we break through the negative perception and criticism around Brampton, especially when it comes to mainstream media? There is too much focus on the sideshows and not enough showcase on the amazing elements and potential that our city has. We just talked about that. How do we refocus that? How do we get a downtown Toronto news station to come up here and understand the precipice that Brampton is at with a university and the good things that are going to happen here? How do we do? I mean, should we throw some money at that? I mean, $4.5 million on a route we've already decided doesn't work.
I understand that we're inside the bubble and we all hear the negative stories, but outside nobody hears them. They really don't hear so many negative stories. When I went down to California, when I went out to Dubai, and certainly when I've traveled across Ontario, people are excited by the growth, the diversity. The average age is 34. That's pretty amazing to have that kind of public
and
here.
The diversity in education.
It's
and
really,
yes.
really cool. I'm really lucky to represent such a great city that's still growing. I would say, I wouldn't even call it a precipice. I think we're at a turning point. We need to embrace change. The world is changing around us.
But it's the message.
Yeah.
It's the message.
Well, my job is to
if you go
have
on
a
Google
positive.
and you Google Brampton politics, the first or 5 things that come up are not about rah Brampton. You know, it's about, oh my goodness this, oh my goodness that, and then you press YouTube and it's like, really? I mean, we need to polish the apple a little, or water the flower and make it bloom some more. Anyways, Singh asks, we need to know total cash reserves of the city of Brampton. Why is there so much secrecy in budget allocation for various sectors? Should be more public every year. Shouldn't it be more public? He's talking about reserves. Remember when?
It's not private. It's not behind closed doors. Come out to our budget presentation. You can get information online. Our annual report is out there. It's your money. You should know where it is. There are conversations we do have behind closed doors, if it's land use, if it's human resources, or if there's certainly if it's real estate or litigation. We do have to have conversations behind closed doors to get legal advice. But your assets are public, and you should know where they are and how we're spending them.
William says he likes living in Brampton, so a good comment there.
Good.
We like to take good, bad, and the ugly. Another question here. Will you bring a revised election rebate program to the table? Could it include a structure similar to that of the federal provincial levels?
So I love the question. I did, and council said no. Council did not want to pursue it at this time. They felt one member of council said it was immoral.
So I got to ask you a question. When we talked before, I said, I looked up what the LRT vote was. It was lost 6-5.
Yep.
On a personal note, I believe that's going to be something that's going to be an election issue. When you talk about this, and the person who asked a question about the structure similar to provincial and federal.
The tax rebate, yeah.
So when you talk about a vote in council, I wonder how many people really are aware of what your councillor voted, what the vote was on certain elements. How would you go about ascertaining what your councillor said and or did and voted on certain things that may be of importance to you? Because that's
Michael,
the second time now.
I would say the bigger issue is, do you actually know who your city and regional councillor are? I would venture to guess that most people don't. The boundaries may change slightly in this next election. You have a mayor, a city councillor, a regional councillor, a school trustee, and now you'll have an extra vote because you will get to choose the regional chair. So you'll have 5 votes. Who are your existing representatives? Are you happy with their stand on issues that matter to you?
Let's talk about the vote. That's what I wanted to get to here, the vote. I mean, the questioner...
You can go back and check. We don't have all of our votes recorded, but I would say it has been my practice since I got elected in 2014 to have recorded votes on things that I felt were game changers for the city of Brampton, that mattered, and I wanted the public to know how I voted.
I wish that some publications would make it a more clear tablet to be able to see what that is, because I think that may have a lot more effect potentially on.
I think a lot of incumbents will talk about their vote, and people will be able to challenge them or not. I think people who challenge incumbents in the next, including myself, who challenge me, Certainly, I'm being challenged in the newspaper right now by a failed mayoralty candidate. But at the end of the day, I stand on my record. I promised to do things, I said I was going to do them, and I brought them to the table. If I don't get the vote this time, I can bring it back in the next term of council.
You're watching Facebook Live Town Hall with Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey, the mayor of Brampton. So Luigi pipes in again here and said that he wasn't joking. If council works for us and they are being financially accountable, why can we not take it to court? Is there a process that citizens of a municipality can call to question either a mayor or a council that they believe have inappropriately spent funds? Is there a vehicle to do that?
It's a tricky answer, and as a former Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing,
Which is why this is a poignant
this
question.
is a challenging question. Remember my challenge in the last term when I was the minister. Mr. Ford was a challenge, and although he was charged, he was not convicted, so he wasn't removed from office.
Right.
There are some remedies, not strong ones. We have an integrity commissioner, Mr. Guy Journo.
Right.
So if you believe that there is wrongdoing, you can approach him and you can put in a complaint. He hasn't been on the job too many months, but
But I
think
don't
you can
believe a
approach him.
municipal official can be sued by a constituent. I believe there is some level of
The only
firewall, if I would say.
unless you can prove wrongdoing or malfeasance,
Right.
Which is a challenge to do because they're a board of directors and we act collectively. So that's the challenge. Whether I agree with the decision or not, that is the decision that I, as mayor, have to bring forward to other levels of government or to businesses. My role is to speak on behalf of council on issues that we've made a decision on.
Yeah.
There are times when we haven't made a decision, so sometimes I have to speak extemporaneously and not know generally where, but I can say, here's what we have talked about before. We haven't got a motion to that effect, but high-speed rail. We had no motion to that effect. We had no position on it, and yet council was furious and angry, but they'd never talked about this issue before. So hard for me to talk about it.
When you go out, you talk to all the people of Brampton.
Yep.
When you go out, you talk to all the people of Ontario representing Brampton.
Yep.
When you come across a council that some have said is dysfunctional and is not supportive to a common goal, and you get something that you want to get done because from what you've collared from your constituents and from your people and from business,
Yep.
that you feel it's a positive thing, and then you get shut down in council. How difficult is that from a personal point of view, being a person who lives and breathes Brampton, to go out there and say, well, I wanted it, but they didn't pass it? Like, how do you say that straight face to someone in Brampton that agrees with you? I mean, there's probably another person who disagrees with you.
Oh, there's
but-
a few that disagree
Yeah.
with me. It's part of the job. I mean, when I was a councillor before, I didn't win all the votes.
Right.
Some I won and some
You
I
can't
didn't.
please all the people all the time, right?
and I can't please every voter. Remember, I speak for 600,000 people.
Right.
Each councillor represents 70 to 100,000 people. They don't please everybody in their riding. We rely on our staff to give us advice. Sometimes we disagree with the advice, we disagree with the direction. Every councillor is responsible to the constituents who elect them. And it is disheartening, I would say, when you get 30% of the people showing up to an election.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the best report card and the best judgment of my performance and everybody else on council is to decide whether they get renewed for another 4-year term.
You're watching Live Town Hall with Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey, the Mayor of Brampton. You can contact us at facebook.com/Live Town Hall. And we also bring to your attention next Thursday on the 27th, Mr. Harry Schlong will be here from Brampton. He's the new CAO of Brampton. You can ask your questions, post them on Facebook, or you can also go to bramptonfocus.com as well if you have any questions. Tariq comes up with a really good question, and I really like this. This chimes in back to the positive perspective of Brampton, getting the sizzle going. When is Brampton going to get a big sign in front of City Hall like Toronto?
Well,
That's not such a bad idea, you know.
It isn't,
I mean,
but if you were down in the farmer's market a few weeks ago, we did have a Brampton sign outside.
it was you talk about there's no denying. I mean, you had Cara Bram just recently, a huge success. You had the Bollywood Festival. You had the Comedy Festival. You have the Arts, Brampton Arts, which is coming on the 24th to the 26th to the Rose Theatre. I mean, everything is happening here. The one beautiful thing about a Brampton lit up sign like that, although it may be assumed as being copycat, it is something you can hang your hat on.
You know, we're looking at all kinds of ideas, and
Gage Park.
There's lots we can do, and there's more that we can do. And as a council, we are charged with this opportunity because we know we have lots of visitors. And we are looking at that idea, and we're working with our Economic Development Office to get those terrific visuals. We're not going to hire a big yellow duck to come anytime
At
soon.
$126,000?
No, and we don't have, I don't think we have the water facility to do it. But you know what? We're open to great ideas. And I don't know about you, but I'm busy every weekend going to all these. Vibrant was on in the square this weekend.
Yep.
Great entertainment, great food, Cara Bram. We have so much going on
the
here.
pavilions at Cara Bram, you had the new Punjabi, the Canadian pavilion, which was absolutely spectacular with all the Indigenous.
Yep.
I think one of the biggest messages that people miss is Gage Park in the winter, where you have a Zamboni that goes around. That is one of the coolest things that is an undiscovered pleasure, where you can go with your kids and skate around.
And on Thursday evenings, you can go and listen to chamber music in the summer.
Yeah.
And bands. There's all different kinds of music. Every Thursday night, you just get your lawn
Gotta
chair
wave the
out
flag,
and
though.
sit there and enjoy free music in the park. It's wonderful.
Thiva has a question. With Vaughan moving towards an improved transit to downtown with the new Metropolitan Centre, how is Brampton improving transit towards such a hub that are neighboring our city?
I would say that we're having very productive conversations, and certainly this morning, Minister Morneau talked with Howard Ng, who runs the Greater Toronto Airport Authority, about that last mile to bring services in. We get people who fly in from all over the world, one of the busiest hubs of an airport in North America. And how do we connect all that transit, whether it's Mississauga, Toronto, Brampton, to connect all those cities? So we're having those bigger conversations, and as I said, the federal and provincial government came together with an historical regional express rail funding, which is going to actually unlock the potential of that super innovation corridor that we are in the middle of. It's location, location, location.
But we have to connect to Steeles by bus now to get to the LRT that's coming from Mississauga, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay then. Sienna has a question. She says, I've been a resident of Brampton for 20 years, and I would like to know, what is the government doing about fentanyl overdose? Some 50,000 people died last year in the United States from fentanyl and abuse, drug abuse. I mean, there is a problem in North America, and we have a situation in Brampton.
It's very scary.
Is there anything from an initiative standpoint from the federal government and the provincial government coming to help Brampton?
Well, in Brampton, our response comes from the regional government, and certainly we as regional councillors, and I'm one of the people that sits around with Mayor Crombie and Mayor Thompson and all the other regional councillors, and we talk with our medical officer of health about how to manage it and make sure our paramedics have the equipment on their trucks that allows them to potentially save someone. We are extremely lucky in that we haven't had the extraordinary loss of life, the magnitude that they've had out west, but even one life is too many. So we are seized with this issue, and I sit as the chair of the Large Urban Mayors, which is about 27 mayors across Ontario, and we've talked about this issue with the federal government, and we are working together to make sure we have the resources we need.
You're watching Live Town Hall with Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey. The last 15 minutes, if you have a question or a comment, please put them in and we'll get to them. We'll do a little rapid fire near the end. Kulvar asks, what would become of the remaining land available for development? Can the city influence developers to build houses for the next 50 years rather than based on thinking from 50 years ago?
I'm going to come at that question a little differently. We actually have the most undevelopable land in the Greater Toronto Area. That is a huge asset. We need to not eliminate that potential to bring people to Brampton. About 2 weeks ago, I had a group of individuals from China in my office. They want to invest in Brampton. They have about $100 million that they want to invest here. And when I talk to them about all the opportunities, the Innovation Super Corridor, where Ryerson is interested to come to Brampton, and all of the other major players that Medtronic and Canon and Coke and all of the other major Loblaw, these individuals couldn't get out of my office fast enough to go and look at the properties. So I would say there's some great opportunities. I think the city has been known as a bedroom community.
Well, they said they developed, instead of worrying about highways and streetlights, they worried about cul-de-sacs.
One of the reasons I left back in 2003 was I wasn't really interested in building more houses. We seemed to allow the development community to, essentially, the tail was wagging the dog of the city. It's not good to do too many of anything. It's like eating all your ice cream. Sometimes you need to eat some salad, some protein, and some ice cream. We didn't have the balance right. I think we're getting to a place that's better for balance, but we are at the point where Mississauga is built out. It is Brampton's turn now, and we need to be smart and strategic about where those investments go.
Cian, I'm sorry I pronounced your name incorrectly. Cian, correction. What is the city doing to have all emergency services equipped with Naxalon, naloxone, which is the
The treatment, the
right,
antidote.
The drug, right. To administer a nasal spray in injection use to reverse block the effects of drug overdose, the fentanyl problem. Yeah.
So as I said, we are at the region talking with the medical officer of health and with our paramedics to make sure that they have the equipment on the trucks and that they're properly trained. As I said, it has not been an enormous number of people in Peel region, but again, one life is too many, and we want to make sure we're prepared.
You're watching Live Town Hall. About 10 to 13 minutes left. You can ask questions of Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey right here on Live Town Hall. We've had a bunch of people on our Brampton Focus series talking about cycling. And one of our viewers asks, what are we doing to make Brampton a more cycle-friendly city?
I don't know that we're doing as much as I would like. I think some of it is how we redesign our downtown. And I would say that maybe Mr. Larry Beasley, who is coming in to give some ideas.
Mr. Cycle.
He could be someone that would help us revision and reimagine what all of our city could look like and how that connectivity could happen. Part of it is some of those cycle paths don't connect. They don't cross or go under passes or overpasses to make it safe. It hasn't been a priority, I think, for this council based on what I've seen from a strategic planning perspective. I think it has more weight now with this council.
It's a good budgetary suggestion.
And I think it's something that if there's a specific route that you want to have more investment in, come and chat with us. But it also is part of a conservation authority conversation that we have, the connectivity between Caledon and Brampton and Mississauga and east-west as well. So those are conversations we can have in our budget, and it's certainly part of a larger master plan. There's a gentleman who came to the Rose Theatre when I was running for the job of mayor. He represents a group called 8 and 80, Gil Penalosa. Have a read and look at his website. He talks about 8 and 80, I remember because he talks about making a city that's safe for 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds, pedestrian, cycle-friendly, and really
yeah,
whether
we actually did a program on that.
it's so
very
important,
interesting. Yes.
so interesting, and really the design that you do really helps bring economic development and walking traffic, and those people stop and eat and shop, and that's a great way to build your downtown and other parts of the city, because the downtown isn't all of Brampton.
Dennis wants to know what's going on with the Osmington Mall.
I would say it's proceeding. There was some litigation surrounding it. I believe the litigation is going away. So I would say maybe Councillor Peleschi and Councillor Willens would be more up to date as to its timing.
So is there a resolution to this?
It's going forward. Yeah.
Okay. Mark wants to know, why is there so much traffic lights in Brampton? It takes 40 minutes to go across the city. Why not less lights, more crosswalks? Is there not some element of synchronization, traffic flow?
There is, but remember there's 3 different kinds of roads in the city. We have roads that are managed by the province, we have roads that are managed by the city, and some that are managed by the region.
Yeah.
We do coordinate, we do talk to each other, we're always trying to get it right. We're a big city. We're a big
I know,
city
but
with
sometimes getting
600,000
from
people.
one side to the other, that's a valid point.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I never have to
Synchronization.
travel across the city and
I
curse
know
those
you do.
traffic lights.
I know you do. I know you. But it's synchronization of lights. You would hope that there would be an effort to at least.
They do. We do. We work with the region very closely and with the province to make sure that we get them right. And if you see something that's not working over and over, contact your local councillor and tell them. I know they'd be happy to help.
About 10 minutes left. You're watching Live Town Hall with Mayor Linda Jeffrey. My name is Michael A. Sherman. I'm your host. We remind you that next Thursday, the 27th, Harry Schlang, who's the new CAO of Brampton, will be here spending an hour with us at 7 o'clock. So we hope that you will have your questions ready for Mr. Schlang. Emmanuel asks, what is Brampton doing about the arts and fostering young talent? Janelle, one of the dancers on NBC, came from Brampton, but we have to go outside of the city many times to get support.
You know, I think one of the things that we're really interested in now is making sure that arts and culture has the kind of prominence we want it to have. So we have just hired somebody to manage the Rose, Brendan Healy, brand new on the job. I don't even think it's more than a month that he's been on the job. He was on CBC Radio just a couple of weeks ago and was talking about the roadmap and the vision that he has. I know that he's very interested in people from the arts and those who appreciate the arts to give him a sense of what kind of programming we can fill all of our theaters with to make sure that we showcase and bring the kind of talent that we all want to see.
Well, Brampton
live
Arts
stage.
Alive,
Yes.
I hate to interrupt you, but I want to get that. Brampton Arts Alive is happening August 24th to the 26th at the Rose Theatre.
Yes.
And the star-studded people from Broadway, singers, dancers, it's absolutely amazing. Sharon Van Drish, who's the musical director of many of the events that take place at the Rose Theatre, put this together. And Arts Alive Brampton is something you can't miss. So I encourage you to go to their website, encourage you to buy a ticket. Yeah. Is that not what you're talking about, a fabric of a city? I mean, it's so important.
I think that your arts and culture really are a pulse within your city, and you can find ways to showcase the talent, because we have a lot of talent in this city. I know that we're doing very well on the sporting front. We also have some great artists that come from Brampton, are successful elsewhere, whether they're dancers or singers or playwrights. We've done extraordinarily well. There's something in the water that brings talent to Brampton.
Don't start about the water, because then we're talking about chlorine.
We won't go there. No, fluoride, I think, is where we're going. But at the end of the day, we have some extraordinary talent, and Mr. Healy is new on the job, and I think I'm looking forward to what he's going to bring to the table.
I'd love to meet Mr. Healy if you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
You have a public service announcement, as one would say, from your team, saying that residents can participate in the Queen Street Transit Master Plan. That's an important point. We talked about budget. We talked about getting the voices of the people of Brampton into their budget. And what are you trying to get them to do for the Transit Master Plan?
I think that decisions are made by those who show up. Mm-hmm. I would venture to guess that virtually no one on my council regularly takes public transit. So if you take public transit, you might want to put your 2 cents in. If it's taking too long, if it costs too much, if it's not going in the direction you want it to do, tell us. Tell us how we can make it better. And we make decisions, the financial decisions, that determine what your city is going to look like, whether it's recreation centers or transit. We decide when the grass gets cut, when the snow gets plowed, how quickly the fire truck comes to you.
Right.
These are all decisions that are service level driven. We just finished a Parks and Rec master plan that will guide our investments for the next 15 years. What do you want transit to look like? How do you want it to connect? Where do you need to get to? What's working? What's not working? If you don't participate, you're going to kick yourself afterwards that you had an opportunity to give us your 2 cents. And again, I would venture to guess that no one on council is a regular public transit user. Tell us how we can make better decisions on your behalf.
Just about 7 minutes left. Live Town Hall with Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey. Another question from Thiva. She says, any update on the study of the proposed Highway 413, which is the west corridor to run through Brampton to Milton?
So I believe this is the GTA West corridor that she's talking about. The decision has been delayed multiple times. It is essentially freezing land across east to west of North Brampton. The region has talked about it multiple times. I am sure that we as a council, because a large group of us are going to the AMO convention in Ottawa in the next couple of weeks. AMO is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and it's like speed dating with ministers. You get 15 minutes. This is one of those issues we will likely bring to the table and
But it's
say,
a powerful group that you're involved in.
it's very helpful to have that conversation to say, make a decision. You're holding up decisions along that transitway. I believe something will come. I'm not sure it will be the scale that was originally envisioned by the province, and certainly Minister Del Duca is the person managing that file right now.
Another comment from Rowena here. We need more music venues in Brampton. Too many Bramptonians are going to Mississauga or Toronto for live music in the evening. I mean, we just commented about the Rose Theatre, an absolute compliment to the city of Brampton, but it is one venue, but of so many more available. How do we get more people to spend their music and entertainment dollar in Brampton?
I think, musicians go where there's people who want to listen to them and where they can make a living. It's really hard being an artist, and I would say that maybe the conversation with Brendan Healy can help. I know Chuck Scott was somebody who worked really hard with the arts community. I think the whole Arts Council concept is something that has not flourished as quickly as I would have liked. I'm interested in suggestions. How can we as a city support the arts community? I'm the mother of what used to be a starving artist.
Yes.
Used to work 3 and 4 jobs to kind of make a living.
Too.
He was an actor,
Yes.
a musician,
Or still
and
an actor. We shouldn't
he's still.
was, yes.
Well, he's
It's
not
struggling
making a living
artist.
doing it, but it's
Yeah.
hard to do it. And I'm a daughter of a music teacher, so I love live music. I'd love to find a way to attract more musicians, more artists, more writers. I mean, we had a wonderful artists writers festival here just a few weeks ago that brought talent from all over North America. Because they felt this was a friendly environment. That's what I want Brampton to be. The diversity is a strength and really attracts people who want to do something different.
About a month ago, we had a little controversy in Brampton about one councillor who said that the media wasn't properly reporting what had been said.
Yep.
And there was a request then to say that media questions should be posted online and that the answers from councillors posted online, because what the councillor felt was that there was a filter going through the question and the answer, where the media was only taking a soundbite of what they wanted. I mean, you said if it bleeds, it leads. An interesting question here, where was he? There, Sean said, why do you not want the public to have access to the communications between the media and City Hall? So when you get asked a question by media, they have to generally submit it to you in writing. It's not freelance over top. That only happens when there's a live interview most of the time.
Yep.
So the question begs, for simplicity's sake, should those questions be posted online, and should an elected official have to post the answers online? That was part of what Sean said, but also speaks to the question that the councillor in Brampton had as well. Where do you stand on that?
So I think that as someone who's been in public life since 1991, there are times when the media takes what I say and distorts it. So one of the things that I and my staff do is we usually record the interviews so that we have a physical backup that actually what I said. Because there are times, and I know our local reporter has done this, he's taken 2 interviews and put a quote together that actually is not the original quote. Yes. Not exactly what I said, and there are times when I don't argue about it because it's not exactly what you said. I would say that it is challenging if you're the reporter and you ask me a question. My relationship is between you and I, so I have a burden of proof to go back to you. I don't have an obligation to share my answer with anyone else except you. And you as a reporter have an obligation through your industry to handle that information properly and correctly. And I can challenge you if you've done the wrong thing.
When someone say the gotcha question, I mean, in many instances, the gotcha question is to say, so gotcha, go ahead, and watch you sizzle. And others are saying, well, we don't need to hear that malarkey. Get to the salient point.
And I understand, but there are times when reporters ask questions that they absolutely know we may not answer.
Yes.
We're not allowed to answer.
Yes.
If it has to do anything with HR, if it has anything to do with litigation,
Yes.
if it has anything to do with real estate.
So you're
there are
covering
three-
it up, are you, Madam Mayor?
Three
Right?
things are
Yeah.
not allowed to be talked about
course.
because we make an oath that we will keep those
Yeah.
things in camera, which sometimes doesn't happen. Sometimes that disclosure happens outside and it's wrong. I have an obligation to my residents and to the job that I hold as the CEO of a board, to act with integrity, to allow transparency and accountability to come forward when I can. Then it doesn't put in jeopardy the status of the corporation.
Just about a minute left. Kevin has an interesting question. Any consideration for eliminating council's car allowances and handing out transit passes? Logically, no. Fun-wise, yeah. But-
It isn't on the books, but I would say that certainly council gets an extraordinarily generous car allowance. But if you look at some of the events that we
But
have
you have
to do,
go to so many meetings.
I go to a lot of meetings, and they're, as a regional councillor and as somebody on the police services board, and as someone who sits at the province level as well, giving advice as to what's good for Brampton. And
You have to get
it
there.
is a challenge to get there by bus or by train, but I can tell you that every opportunity I do, I take the GO train, I take buses as much as possible. I did it during the election so that I knew when I put a platform together that it was reasonable and effective and deliverable.
About 1 minute left here on Live Town Hall. Anything you want to leave the folks with at home? And we want to talk about Harry Schlong, who's going to be here on the 27th. That's Thursday the 27th for a Live Town Hall. And also another promo for Brampton Arts Live. That's happening August 24th to the 26th at the Rose Theatre.
Two things. Please participate in the budget from November 27th to 29th. If you don't speak about things that matter to you, whether it's a park bench, whether it's lighting, whether it's a bus route, if it's a recreation center, all of those things are budgetary items. Participate in the budget, have an opinion. If you like something, say so. If you don't like something or you want us to start considering about changing the service level, participate. We'd love to hear from you. Please don't think we have all the answers, because we don't. And secondly, we have a survey that you can go on the city's website. It's a citizen survey. It's going from July 6th to 26th. We'd love to hear from you. It's in 5 different languages, so there's no reason not to participate, and it really will determine the kind of service level, the kind of services you will get, and how we deliver them. Participate and give us your 2 cents. You can help drive change and better service of the City of Brampton if you participate.
Madam Mayor, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
4th time here, Live Town Hall. Appreciate that.
Thanks for the invite.
Also, thank you to you for participating. It is you who makes this show possible with your questions and your interest. We also want to thank Brampton Focus, Paul Vicente, Don McLeod, and Fazil Khan for their time and their assistance in making this program possible. My name is Michael A. Charbon. It's been a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you next Thursday when we talk to the CAO of Brampton right here on Live Town Hall. Thanks for watching.